Super Friends is an animated television series produced by Hanna-Barbera that aired on the ABC network from 1973 to 1974. Not since Filmation's Justice League of America cartoons in 1968 had there been a series that brought together a group made up of DC Comics heavy hitters. The Super Friends were comprised of Superman and Wonder Woman, who were last seen helping out the Brady kids, Aquaman, who previous to Super Friends had his own Filmation-produced animated series, and Batman and Robin, who before this could be seen teaming up with Scooby-Doo and Mystery Incorporated in the new Scooby-Doo movies.
An incredible story, but we'll check it out.
Spinning out of popular Scooby-Doo team-up episodes were the network-mandated junior Super Friends, Wendy, Marvin, and Wonder Dog. Love 'em or hate 'em, you have Archie and Hot Dog along with Shaggy and Scooby-Doo to thank for Marvin and Wonder Dog.
Some coincidence.
Maybe it isn't a coincidence.
While an invention of Hanna-Barbera, the Junior Super Friends' first comic book appearance occurred by the year 1975 within the pages of the Super Friends Limited Collector's Edition. Character designer for the 1973 TV series, Alex Toth, also contributed to the art in this particular issue. The Super Friends would finally get their very own ongoing comic title a couple of years after the show had finished airing in 1976. The writer of the Super Friends comic book series, Edward Nelson Bridwell, also served as a consultant and script advisor on the 1973 TV series and composed detailed backstories for the trio of sidekicks. Most of the backstory found its way not to the comic or the show itself, but the editorial or letters page at the rear of most comics.
These are dummies. Inflated rubber dummies. Uh-oh, this could be a trap.
It's a trap! And it worked!
In the comics, the decision was made that the Super Friends were not the Justice League of a different Earth in the DC multiverse, as many fans had speculated, but were simply part of the then mainstream Earth known as Earth 1. You can easily see this connection when Clark Kent would show up on the series as a TV news reporter for Galaxy Communications, which was a current staple of Earth 1 at the time.
Clark Kent of the Galaxy Broadcasting System. Here's my top secret pass.
Here's mine.
And mine.
The first mention of Morgan Edge, president of the Galaxy Broadcasting System, purchasing the Daily Planet, was made inside the pages of Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen issue 133 by 1970. This change would be reflected line-wide in both Superman as well as Action Comics. According to Bridwell, the reason why the Super Friends would exist on Earth 1 when there was already a Justice League in play was simple. The Super Friends came together to train the young Marvin and Wendy as superheroes at the Hall of Justice.
The Super Friends won't stand for it, and neither will we, the Junior Super Friends.
My take on Marvin is that he's supposed to represent every fanboy out there. Very enthusiastic, but ultimately ineffectual. Marvin is what any comics fan in the closet might secretly fantasize for themselves, that idealized image one has of oneself as a superhero, which ended up materializing in the form of a junior super friend with a green cape and a large letter M on his chest.
I know I can depend on you to handle the situation with skill and daring and super fantastic intelligence.
Wendy, I never realized what a fantastic, super cool judge of character you are.
Marvin's last name is White, and while not a relation of Daily Planet editor Perry White, he is, in a roundabout way, related to Wonder Woman herself. Marvin's mother is in fact the woman who was formerly known as Diana Prince. You see, in Wonder Woman's original backstory, she had no need for a secret identity until she needed to see Steve Trevor, who was in the hospital at the time. By coincidence, Wonder Woman came across a teary-eyed nurse called Diana Prince, who was unable to reunite with the man she wished to marry because of their current limited finances. Wonder Woman, whose first name is also Diana, bears a striking resemblance to the nurse and takes her place. This gives Wonder Woman the new secret identity of Diana Prince, while providing the financial needs to enable the former prince to rejoin her fiancé, a miner stationed in South America. That woman's son was Marvin. This also plays into why his dog is called Wonder Dog. This is actually an homage to Wonder Woman herself, without which neither of them would exist.
Yes. Take us to Wonder Woman. Take us to Wonder Woman. Take us to... What's happening?
Marvin, we did it!
Wendy, in early drafts of the Super Friends TV scripts, was made out to be the niece of Bruce Wayne. Of course, this was nixed for a variety of reasons. Wendy calling Batman Uncle Bruce in public, and the Batman referring to Bruce Wayne's supposed niece as his very own. Never mind that the only person who really could have been Wendy's father if this were true, Thomas Wayne Jr., was brain damaged for most of his life and was eventually killed. But of course, we prefer not to talk about Batman's older brother, for as our old pal Shazam puts it while paraphrasing Shakespeare, that way lies madness. So Bridwell decided that Wendy's last name was in fact Harris, whose Uncle Harvey was a great detective and contributed to the young Bruce's early training. So now Bruce is repaying that debt to a former teacher by serving as Wendy's mentor.
Atta girl.
There is also a Wendy Harris Taylor, who is the wife of the First Hour man, Rex Taylor, who at the time resided on Earth 2 of the DC multiverse. Given that the Superman of Earth 2 is considerably older than the Superman of Earth 1, it is a safe assumption that the wife of Our Man could in fact be the older counterpart of the younger Wendy Harris of Earth 1.
Maybe it'll lead to something that can clear this up.
All by that? Anything to get away from these freaky buildings.
In the later incarnations of the Super Friends, Zan and Jaina, the Wonder Twins, would serve as junior Super Friend members. So, in issue 6 of the Super Friends comic book, it was explained that Marvin and Wendy have officially graduated from their training at the Hall of Justice by passing a final exam administered by the Atom. According to issue 9 of the comic, Marvin then went to college attending the Atom's alma mater, Ivy University, and Wendy continued her training on Paradise Island and can even be seen tutoring Circe's daughter, Lyta, in Wonder Woman Volume 2, issue 186.
You have served with courage. I thank you.
Okay, Superman, we did!
Power up.
Power up!
Bye, guys. Hope we're gonna see him again soon. I'll really miss him.
In current DC continuity, generally referred to as taking place on New Earth, during the one-year gap between Infinite Crisis and Teen Titans, it is revealed that Wendy and Marvin became the caretakers of Titan's Tower during this time. I get the idea that the Teen Titans writer, Sean McKeever, must have sat through Marvin saying his catchphrase for about 1 billion times like me.
Zonkers! 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 Well, zonkers!
After enduring that marathon of catchphrase hell, I think anyone can understand why he thought it would be totally cool to kill off Marvin by making Wonder Dog turn out to be one of those evil Ghostbuster dogs.
Nice doggy. Cute little pooch. Maybe I got a milk bone.
Thanks, Wonder Dog. You saved me from a fate worse than death. I'll make sure you get an extra big piece of cake. Okay, 2 pieces, Wonder Mouth.
We should really just throw the guy a party and celebrate. But it's not all doom and gloom as Wendy manages to survive the attack of Lycus's Hellhound.
I don't know. I just wish Wonder Woman would get back. She'd know what to do.
Wendy can be seen later as the wheelchair-bound computer expert now calling herself Proxy, who is sort of a junior version of the Bat Family's Oracle over in the current Batgirl comic.
See you back in the Hall of Justice League.
According to the early comics and show, the Hall of the Justice League, as it was sometimes referred to, was located in Gotham City.
Meanwhile, not too many miles from Gotham City.
This is why in the comics, Commissioner Gordon is often seen filling in for the Super Friends' regular contact via Troublert in the series Colonel Wilcox.
You and the other Justice Leaguers had better get there immediately.
Colonel Wilcox, we're on our way. Come on, gang.
It also seemed to make the most sense because a Batmobile drive from Gotham to Metropolis, where the Hall was later said to be located in subsequent series, seems like a lengthy drive to yours truly.
No offense, Batman, but I can get us there faster than your Batmobile.
That's okay, Superman. I can get more miles to the gallon this way.
I'm more of a DC Atlas type guy, so in my mind it's like a Batmobile drive from Jersey to Delaware. Quite the trek, whereas Superman, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman's speedy travel to Gotham City is much more easily explained given their special abilities.
Jupiters, we've got to stop that tornado before it destroys Metropolis.
It's headed straight for the Hall of Justice.
Speaking of the travels of Wonder Woman, this series marks the first time we would see her invisible plane in action on a weekly television series. Wonder Woman's invisible plane first appears within the pages of Sensation Comics issue number 1 by January of 1942.
I still marvel at your transparent plane, Wonder Woman. A robot plane that you fly by using brain waves.
The only thing that can surpass super strength is the power of the brain.
Whether made of Amazilicon or elastic Amazonium, the robot plane, as it was referred to in the early comics, is said to be virtually indestructible. By 1943, in Sensation Comics issue number 24, Wonder Woman could use mental commands to direct the plane to fly of its own accord. Eventually, the plane could function underwater, as an underground earth borer, and even travel faster than the speed of light in outer space. Probably inspired by the popularity of the TV series Knight Rider, within the pages of Wonder Woman issue 312, the invisible plane receives the ability to speak to its mistress, just like Kit and Michael.
Where are we going?
To save Michael.
Besides going unseen in the various Super Friends series, the invisible plane would make transparent appearances in the new original Wonder Woman as both a plane as well as a jet fighter. A more modern take on the invisible plane can be seen in the direct-to-video Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, as a stealth device simply locked in its cloaking mode. Some feel this provides the much-needed backstory for the appearance of a similar plane in the animated series Justice League Unlimited. In the direct-to-video animated Wonder Woman film, Steve Trevor, to his shock and surprise, would use the invisible plane to fire some invisible missiles.
Of course. Invisible missiles. Hardy flippin' hard.
Plus, in the 1974 Wonder Woman pilot starring Kathy Lee Crosby, there is a clever little nod to Wonder Woman's main means of pre-crisis transportation.
I have this marvelous plane that flies that much faster than yours.
I'd like to see it sometime.
I'm afraid that's just not possible.
Even if I give you my word, I'd make no attempt to steal it.
It's not that. You see, my plane is invisible.
Ah, and you are invisible when you fly it.
Of course.
Convenient.
While there is a brief cameo by Plastic Man and a guest appearance by The Flash, the highlight of these guest shots has to be the appearance by Green Arrow. Green Arrow, also known as Oliver Queen, made his debut within the pages of More Fun Comics issue 73 by November of 1941. The Emerald Archer was created by Mort Weisinger and George Papp, and starts out his career quite similar to Batman with his massive wealth, a teenage sidekick like Robin called Speedy, as well as an arrow car and an arrow cave. For some reason, in its debut in More Fun issue 73, the Arrow car was referred to as the fastest car on wheels, the Aeroplane. Following World's Finest Comics issue 12, it has been called the Arrow car ever since. The Arrow Cave makes its first appearance by 1952 in World's Finest issue 59, about 8 years after the Batcave's initial appearance in the pages of Detective Comics. Queen eventually received a costume makeover by artist Neil Adams in Brave and the Bold issue 85 by the year 1969, which is the version that would appear on the show. That same year, in Justice League issue 75, Denny O'Neil had the character lose his fortune to further distance him from Wayne's unlimited bankroll on his future endeavors. Of course, the way the kids decide that Green Arrow is the one to be contacted on the episode Gulliver's Gigantic Goof is a typical ploy in comics that always cracks me up.
Get help from some of the other Justice Leaguers.
We can't. They're all away on a space mission. Too far away for us to call.
Wait a minute, Marvin. Not all of them. there's still one Justice Leaguer we can reach.
You're right! The Green Arrow!
If I had a nickel for every time the Justice League or the Fantastic Four were busy off in outer space doing who knows what, I'd be as rich as Bruce Wayne or Scrooge McDuck.
Money.
Green Arrow would go on to appear as the human element, much like the Dark Knight detective would, in Justice League Unlimited. He could then be seen going up against his arch-nemesis, Count Vertigo, in The Batman. Following this, the Emerald Archer sported a much more Golden Age look in Justice League The New Frontier, as well as Batman the Brave and the Bold, where he tries his best to keep up with the Joneses, or in this case, best Batman himself, who he considers a rival crime fighter. Finally, a DC Showcase short features Arrow going up against his dark opposite Merlin, and his only live-action interpretation to date is on the TV series Smallville.
You have a quick tongue. I find that very attractive.
Well, keep it in your quiver, Jolly Green Bandits.
Generally, the antagonists on this series were not portrayed as truly evil or malicious. Instead, they came across as oblivious to the negative consequences their actions would have, or more misguided than anything else. This always felt rather convenient to me in that the Super Friends never ran into anyone they couldn't come to an understanding with, or someone who might refuse to listen to reason.
Thank goodness this isn't a camel. Whatever it is, I'm gonna have a little rap session with it. All right, you big overgrown what's-it? Yes, I can talk to you telepathically. Why are you pulling that tree? Just having fun, eh? A little harmless mischief? You know you frightened that tree? Now raise your right hand and promise you won't do it again.
You have to understand that there was a concerted effort on the part of broadcast standards and practices to keep this particular version of what was essentially DC Comics' Justice League of America violence-free as well as educational.
And Marvin, don't forget not everyone has super strength, but everyone has a brain. You can do super things with your brain.
The lack of actual villains hindered or watered down what would normally be a high-stakes face-off between protagonist and antagonist. I just never got the impression that any of the Super Friends, never mind Marvin or Wendy, were ever in any sort of real jeopardy. I mean, I would even take the Menagerie Man in his wacky-ass costume, which he probably raided the Phantom and Sheena Queen of the Jungle's closets for, than just another daft scientist whose invention runs amok and out of control. The comics even had a group of DC supervillains take on their own junior villain sidekicks as foils for Marvin and Wendy, which is definitely worth checking out, and a nice departure from the show's somewhat toothless villains.
A proper place for air conditioner thieves, the cooler.
You are not sending me to the cooler.
Also, the hour-long running time inherited from the new Scooby-Doo movies just makes each episode seem to drag on forever. While I have a deep-seated love and nostalgia for later Super Friends series, such as Challenge of the Super Friends and the legendary Superpowers show, I wasn't born until 4 years after this series premiered, and really never saw this era of the show until I was in my 20s when it aired on Cartoon Network or Boomerang, so I don't really view the show's shortcomings with any rose-tinted blinders.
I'm not sure if it's safe to report from my vantage point. I really need to leave. So the fences inform me that the surrounding areas are in ruin. I see some people running now. In the opinion of this reporter, if this nation, or in fact the world, ever needed heroes, that time is now. That time is now.
Justice League.
Zonkers!